Well, today I'm not trying to replace John Haller and his prophecy update, but I am going to share with you some slides on current events that my brother-in-law Joe down in Leesburg, Florida put together for his Sunday school class this morning. So thanks to Joe for preparing these slides. Our government at work, you can go ahead and pick whatever headline you wish as you look at these. Time has run out for Iran nuclear work. This is from Washington. Israel's military practiced long-range missions and mid-air refueling over the past weekend, even as Iran made it clear that it will continue with the development of its nuclear program, which Israel is convinced is a cover for making nuclear weapons. In fact, Israel believes Iran is pursuing negotiations with the U.S. to buy time to finalize its ability to enrich existing low-enriched uranium stockpiles to high-enriched uranium needed to make some 7 or 8 nuclear weapons. And this is from Elliot Abrams off of Debka this past week. Israel can only block Iran deal by military strike. Elliot Abrams, former Deputy U.S. National Security Council advisor, said to a VOA, that's Voice of America, interviewer, Monday that Israel can prevent a deal with Iran only by striking Iran militarily. It has no veto power against a bad deal. In the interview on his recent article in Foreign Affairs, Abrams said he did not believe that disagreement between Israel and the U.S. would cause a deep break. If Israel actually goes ahead and does the military attack on Iran, he said, I think that many Americans would view that as a gutsy thing to do, and in those circumstances, the U.S. would be likely to support Israel in the aftermath. Then earlier this month, after a confrontation between the military and Muslim Brotherhood protesters, 44 people died in those clashes, originally reported. And then later, this article came out indicating that more than 60 Muslim Brotherhood protesters had been killed. The U.S. suspends hundreds of millions of dollars of aid to Egypt. And this also is from the Debka file, October 10th, 2013. The State Department. The U.S. is suspending hundreds of millions in military and other aid to Egypt, a substantial portion of the regular annual $1.5 billion due this year, as well as the delivery of 4 fighter jets and other large weapon systems. Washington acted after more than 60 Muslim Brotherhood protesters were killed in clashes with military forces on the October 6th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War with Israel, and the announcement that deposed President Mohamed Morsi would go on trial on November 4th. So our current administration is taking this action in protest over the treatment of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Now on Saturday, Walid Shabbat also made a point to highlight this withdrawal of aid by the U.S. to Egypt. And I would encourage you this week to go to Walid's website and check out his article. Caroline Glick also posted an article on this very same subject. I think it's entitled Israel's Blind Watchman, and it was posted on Friday, October the 11th. And she deals with the Obama administration and the Muslim Brotherhood and Turkey as well. So I encourage you to listen or to read those different articles. I'm going to actually read a quote from Walid's post yesterday, where he's quoting from the New York Times. To signal its displeasure at the Egyptian military's bloody crackdown on the Muslim Brotherhood, officials said the U.S. would withhold the delivery of several big-ticket items, including Apache attack helicopters, Harpoon missiles, M1A1 tank parts, and F-16 warplanes, as well as $260 million for the general Egyptian budget. The Muslim Brotherhood is the umbrella cover group for Al-Qaeda, Ansar al-Sharia, Hamas, Boko Haram, the Islamic Society of North America, otherwise known as ISNA, and the Council on American Islamic Relations, otherwise known as CARE, and both of those are obviously based in the United States, Al-Shabaab, and others. Now, for those of you who are interested in studying about the conflict in Egypt from a prophetic point of view and what the Bible has to say about the last days in relation to Egypt, I recommend that you read Isaiah 19, Jeremiah 46, and Ezekiel chapter 29, among other passages. But those three chapters will give you a significant amount of information about current events in Egypt, as well as some future things that are predicted. This article deals with Assad's forces in the Syrian Golan. 2 Syrian armored brigades were on their way Monday night, October 7th, to link up with forces fighting in southern Syria to reach Quneitra, opposite the Israeli Golan border. Debka File reports long convoys of around 200 tanks, APCs, armored vehicles, and self-propelled artillery heading for an assembly point near Da'ara in the south. Their goal appears to be to root out rebel strength from all parts of the Syrian border with Israel and sever links between the Syrian rebels and the IDF across the divided Golan. This article is from Aaron Klein. Obama pushing Israel to vacate the Jordan Valley. The Obama administration is pressing hard for Israel to give up the strategic Jordan Valley in a deal with the Palestinians, a senior Palestinian negotiator told WND. And of course, that would be included in the talks over the West Bank. Here's an article entitled, Erdogan, Hezbollah has 200,000 rockets, can hit every Israeli home. Israeli Home Defense Minister Gilead Erdogan Tuesday raised the potential of Israel coming under a 3-week blitz of thousands of missiles, according to the IDF's worst-case scenario. And if you live in Israel, you know and understand that Israel must approach these things militarily from a worst-case scenario. Speaking at Bar Ilan University, the minister noted that Hezbollah has accumulated 200,000 rockets and is capable of striking every Israeli home. Erdogan said that in a few weeks, Israel would enact its first homeland law. It will assign responsibility to his Department for Home Defense, the handling of dangerous substances, and information to the public. And this on the PLO official. Palestinians seriously considering to declare failure of peace talks. Hana Amira accuses Israel of seeking to win time to dictate the outcome of the talks and slams Netanyahu's demand that Palestinians recognize their Jewish right to the homeland in Israel. And of course, that's a reference to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to the United Nations earlier this month. Here's an article out of Iraq. Extremely alarming. Iraq executes 42 people in 2 days. This is from Reuters. Iraq executed 42 people, including a woman, for mass killings and other terrorism offenses over the past week, the Justice Ministry and the United Nations said following a surge in sectarian violence. The UN mission in Iraq said on Thursday it was concerned about the executions, which took place on Tuesday and Wednesday, and Amnesty International described the news as extremely alarming. Many of you might have noticed the cyclone, the super cyclone that hit India yesterday afternoon, and the devastation that caused. Some of you also might be aware of Typhoon Usagi that killed at least 25 people in China. In this clip, just following orders, as government attempts to exalt itself above the Most High, more and more of what used to be called paranoia is now becoming our new normal. And I have several examples here, but I'm only going to highlight the first one. After the government declares we are no longer a Christian nation, it decides to take our kids on field trips to mosques where they can receive a copy of the Quran after the Bible was removed from our schools first, of course. And this was an article that was posted on September the 17th, 2013. Students take field trip to mosque to receive the Quran. A Tennessee high school has decided to revise its field trip policy after a group of freshmen were taken to an Islamic mosque where they were given copies of the Quran, and while a student who opted out of the trip was given a worksheet that alleged Muslims treated their conquered people better than the United States treated minorities. This is the kind of thing that is being foisted upon students in our public school systems. It's alarming, and it's something that we need to be aware of. Epic fail, 99% of Obamacare applications can't be processed. Nightmare scenario coming in January. You know that one guy who successfully signed up for Obamacare? He didn't. Chad Henderson was all over the news the past 2 days. The 21-year-old student from Georgia was cited in multiple articles as being one of the few, the proud, the successful to sign up for insurance through a federal exchange. On his Facebook page, Henderson bragged about being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the Chattanooga Times Free Press, the Huffington Post, Enroll America, and Politico, along with several local TV affiliates. His story supposedly was proof that for all their glitches and problems and the ambivalence of young people, the new health insurance exchanges were working after all. And then underneath the photo, we read, "Pants on fire." Chad Henderson told multiple media outlets that he successfully enrolled in Obamacare. But the poster boy for the new health care law is actually a former Obama campaign staffer, and he's not enrolled in the system. Perhaps some of you saw this in the news earlier this month. California Governor Brown signs bill permitting non-physician abortions. And this final slide, doctors declare patients don't need to be dead before we harvest their organs. The attacks on the dead donor rule, which requires death as a precondition of donating vital organs, are continuing in the world's most prestigious medical and bioethical journals. Take the New England Journal of Medicine, which has just published opposing articles about the issue. The Pro-Killing for Organs article by Robert D. Truog, MD, Franklin G. Miller, Ph.D., and Scott D. Halpern, MD and Ph.D., contends that past assurances about donors being dead were essentially lies. I disagree. But rather than urge a return to ethical standards, the authors go all in for legalizing homicide for organs. From the article, The Dead Donor Rule and the Future of Organ Donation, we read the following quote. Accordingly, patients should be permitted to donate vital organs except in circumstances in which doing so would harm them, and they would not be harmed when their death was imminent owing to a decision to stop life support. That patients be dead before their organs are recovered is not a foundational ethical requirement. Now, I want to tell you, when my wife read that underlined quote in our study yesterday afternoon, she made it undeniably clear that under no circumstances does she want her organs to be harvested while she is still alive. Well, that's it for the current event update, and now we'll switch to a teaching that I'm entitling The Sufficiency of Scripture.